God here. And it's football season. And it's like 100 degrees outside. Sorry about that. Welcome to Season 3 of Gods of Odds, hosted by two of my favorites, Brad Hoyseth and Dave Daba.
Welcome to the Gods of Odds. That is Brad Hoyseth over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave Daba up in Northern California, and it is North America. Week number 8 of your National Football League season. This is the show where we give you the top 10 games worth actually spending some money on. Brad, I have to ask you, do you think Tom Brady is just sitting there right now, continually calling Gronkowski and just going, Gronk, please come back. Gronk, please come back. You don't even have to play. Just throw a party so I can hang out with you.
Yeah, it doesn't look very fun right now if you're in Tampa. And interestingly, we won't touch on that game this week because it's tonight.
Yeah.
And but I think actually Tampa's going to bounce back this week. I mean, we kind of give what we think would have happened in the game on Thursdays, even though the show isn't produced until after the game's already played. But I like their chances of bouncing back this week. But it's tough times in Tampa, and there's I think the offensive coordinator and is probably going to be gone really quickly. And they got a lot of problems there. The wide receivers are just not healthy. Godwin's clearly not the same guy. You know how I feel about the running back situation there. I've never been that huge of a fan of Leonard Fournette. I think the young kid Rachaad White should be playing a lot more football. But the defense is just getting run ragged. They look terrible, and the Bucs are in trouble.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that really lackluster coaching of Todd Bowles that he became so famous for with the New York Jets. It's just like when he doesn't learn or doesn't pay attention to what's working and not working, and continually tries to do the same thing. If I see them, attempt to run Leonard Fournette, again as much as they have been with the same 4 basic running plays, I mean, Hoyseth. If we were playing defense, we would be able to predict exactly which hole Fournette was going to attempt to get to. I mean, for God's sakes, even the Detroit Lions defense might be able to stop Fournette at this point. I'm just saying. Hey, by the way, before we get into it, I forget if we are going to cover the Bronco game. I believe in today's show, but just a sneak peek. I'm so excited to hear this. The Walmart folks who now are the owners of the Denver Broncos have had it with Hackett. and my dream of a coach getting fired at halftime, while that might not happen, we might end up with a coach left behind in London this week if the Broncos lose. Hackett is officially on the Walmart hot seat.
Yeah, another game we're not going to talk about this week. I originally had put it in there was that Jets game.
Yeah.
Because I've been really hot on the Jets, Dave, and you get a ton of text messages from me every weekend about the Jets and how excited. Well, I think we might have to pump the brakes. The superstar running back is hurt. The right tackle's hurt. And so, but they get a tough one this week. Patriots, that's a huge game. The Patriots did not look at all good against the Bears on Monday night. And I still think the Jets are going to win this week, Dave. I really do. You know how I feel about running backs. They're not that valuable. I still think Michael Carter, the guy that's going to come in and play now, is a serviceable running back. But the loss of the right tackle is a little concerning for me. So that's kind of why I steered away from that game this weekend.
This real quick is going to piss off a lot of people in the San Francisco Bay Area in which I reside. But if Kyle Shanahan was the head coach of that New York Jets football team, I guarantee they'd be 3-4. He cannot deal with injuries. Is not a good coach, trying to play the depth on the team. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but that Jets coaching staff has really done a nice job, and it's a shame to see all the injuries. Anyways, Brad, let's go ahead and dive into it. I'll let you kick us off.
Okay, good. Hey, I'm going to skip over a game and I'll jump right into that. Then the Niners are at the Rams. The over/under in that game is 42. I'm going to take the over in that game just because the Rams have had an extra week off to kind of try to figure some things out and get healthy. The Niners, their defense has taken a lot of steps backward with all those injuries. Niners Shanahan's really had, I believe, the number of McVay so far. So I see it being a higher scoring game than that. I think there's going to be some points put up in this deal, and I'm going to take the over at 42.
All right, you're going with the over at 42 in this particular game. I have to agree with you. One of my daughters is going to be actually at that game, I was trying to convince her to wear Rams gear, but that's not going to happen. Look, I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. I was surprised the over under was sort of so low. We both know the Rams offense is sort of struggling, but with this depleted San Francisco 49er defense, I think this Rams team, with a little bit of time off, is going to get back on a little bit of the track. If I had to ask you, who do you think is going to win this game, I would probably say the faithful Bay Area fans are going to be happy come Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it seems like they kind of have their number since Shanahan's arrived. Even though the Rams have got the Super Bowl ring on their fingers, Shanahan and the Niners have done pretty well against them. And I suspect it'll be a little bit tighter this time because I believe that defense has got just so many injuries for San Francisco. But to me, that just pushes the score up. The offense of San Francisco has got some pretty fun guys to watch. And Deebo Samuel in the running game is always pretty good. And so I expect the 42 will be gone mid-third quarter.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to my first game. It is the DeAndre Hopkins Arizona. Are they the Arizona Cardinals against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota? Vikes are favored by 3.5. I want to point out that this is a early game. So if you're on the in California, it's a 10 a.m. game, which means Kirk Cousins will not have seen his shadow yet, and tends to play pretty well. If this was a primetime game, I might be going in a completely different direction. This Viking team, in my opinion, is definitely, I have them in my top 5 power rankings right now, Brad, on the Disturbance Pod, and it's a reluctant top 5. I'm not convinced that this defense is there yet to justify a top 5 power ranking in the National Football League. So my hope is that in this sort of second half of the season, post bye week, they figure a couple things out. The Cardinals are looking really good. I pretty much know what you're going to say. I'm going to go ahead and give you the 3.5 points. But I think they're going to find a way to slow down the Cardinals just enough to win by more than 3.5.
Well, Dave, I got my first flip-flop of the day. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take the Vikings and give the 3.5 based on a couple things. The Hopkins coming back last week. Yeah, they threw him the ball a lot and he caught a lot, but things weren't quite exactly the same there with the offense. And I think the Vikings are better from sideline to sideline versus north-south. So let's just say the Cardinals would love to get their quarterback Kyler Murray out of the pocket and have him run a little bit and make things happen. And the Vikings are pretty good with those defensive ends. They're better at rushing the passer than they are stopping the run, let's just say. But the Cardinals don't really care about running the football. They just they're going to try to get Hopkins involved and start throwing it around. And I don't really like the extra hook there, the 3.5. I'd rather that it was 3. But the Vikings have had an extra week to prepare for this thing. I still think they're the worst 5-1 football team on the planet. But I think they're going to be the worst 6-1 football team on the planet. At some point, I'm going to wake up and go, it's not a bad team. But, I'm going to stick with them for 1 week this week. I'm going to give the 3.5 with you. It was a flip-flop on my part, but from an X's and O's standpoint, I think it's a good matchup for the Vikings.
Yeah, I was really sort of looking at this, because it's a completely different Arizona Cardinal team with Hopkins there. Not only is he a good wide receiver, Brad, but he's also a good buffer between head coach and quarterback. Like, let's just go back maybe like 10 or 15 years, Brad. Can you imagine a quarterback 15 years ago just yelling at a head coach that way on the sidelines and getting away with it? It's an EA Sports world we live in, Brad.
Hey, this is where we talk about our gear. We always have a little something on, but what do you got going today, Dave? You got something on the sleeve there? What is it?
I'm rocking some Municipal today, which is produced by Marky Mark.
Oh, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch?
Yeah.
There you go. I got my old quarry. I played golf in Curacao a couple years back. You see the flag of Curacao there. Played at a place called the Old Quarry, which was a who's the famous golf architect? Anyways, doesn't matter. It was a great golf course right on the water, but it was about 20-mile-an-hour winds the whole entire time, and I didn't play so well, Dave.
Yeah, well, the winds could have been just non-existent, and I've finished the sentence. I didn't play so well on numerous occasions. I could tell you that.
It was a Pete Dye golf course. I had to play a Pete Dye golf course, so it was a little overpriced, but we were the only guys on the course. We had a blast. It was beautiful, but, man, it was windy. Anyways, let's dive into my next one here, which is the Panthers at the Falcons. The Falcons are 4.5-point favorites. I don't know how the Panthers did what they did last week, Dave. That was crazy. Somehow pulling off that win. I did not see that coming at all against the Buccaneers. But I'm not sure that wasn't more about just how bad the Buccaneers are rather than how good the Panthers are, because I don't think the Panthers are very good. I still think it's a fire sale there. I'm going to take the Falcons. I think it's one of those games where you say, oh, the Panthers, well, maybe they don't. It's one of those, let's remember who we're talking about games. And so I'm going to take the Falcons and give the 4.5.
Yeah, I was like so glad you picked this game this week, Brad. I purposely didn't pick it because I figured you'd pick it. You know where I'm at with Arthur Smith and the Falcons. They're the best 3 and 4 football team in the National Football League. I mean, they played a really good half against Cincinnati. This was the first game in about a month where they sort of fell apart in a second half of a football game. In terms of the Panthers, how do you trade away? You go, the problem with our franchise is Christian McCaffrey. I've never understood that. How can one of the top 5 running backs in the National Football League be the problem with your franchise? And did you really get that much back from the San Francisco 49ers in exchange? It was just a terrible deal run by an organization that is reeling and is completely out of control at this point. Before you know it, Matt Gase is going to be is going to be looking for a head coaching job with this Carolina football team. One more chance to ruin Sam Darnold for Gase is really what he's after at this point. Look, to me, the Cardinal game was, or the Panther game was more a reflection of, and I might be the only person in the media, if we call ourselves part of the media these days, Brad, that actually is going to say this. Tom Brady looked terrible. Like everybody's sort of dancing around it. We're all talking about his, off the field, personal issues. But Tom Brady over the last 3 weeks has looked terrible. I have not seen him. I mean, if you go back and you look at the tape, he's he looks like a baseball player throwing the ball into the dirt. Doesn't quite have the arm to get it to first base anymore, Brad. And I saw just so much of that from Brady over the last couple weeks that I'm actually beginning to think this is it. That we're at that point now. Hard to admit, but one of the best quarterbacks, the best quarterback in the history of the National Football League in terms of being able to win Super Bowls is closing in on being done. Everybody else is sort of skirting around it, and that's rightfully so because it's Tom Brady and he has had some slumps in the past and has come out of them. But you're asking him to try to come out of a slump with no running game, no offensive line that's not going to give him any sort of protection at all. Just difficult. Anyway, sorry, I got totally sidetracked. I'm with you on the Falcons.
Yeah, no, and we didn't even talk about the McCaffrey thing. I mean, Dave, I picked the Niners and the Bengals at the beginning of the season to go to the Super Bowl. I'm really liking where I'm at right about now.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenarios I heard somebody say this week was that they said, well, okay, so Tampa's gonna, Brady. They were basically saying, Brady and the Buccaneers are gonna turn the ship around and probably finish the season 9-8 and end up winning their division. And they'll have to play. They'll play like some easy first round game, and then they'll get up. They'll have a chance to go against Kyler Murray in the second round. And Brady versus Kyler in the playoffs, and that will be an easy win. And then they'll have the chance to beat Kirk Cousins in the NFC Championship game. And this guy was just so bitter because he sees like this direct path for this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team to still end up in the Super Bowl, and it was basically just having to go through Kyler and Kirk Cousins. And even if Brady is a shell of himself, he probably could still put together 2 games like that.
Boy, I don't know. That's well-wishing there.
Yeah.
From what I saw. I mean, I'm with you. To me, Brady doesn't look right. The only thing missing was a big outburst on his part. I figured he was going to be exploding at the offensive lineman on the sidelines, but I think he could really only look himself in the mirror after that game. He didn't look very good.
No, he didn't look good at all. All right, quickly moving overseas to London for yet another. Let's just get a team over there already. Another National Football League game in London, which Brad's dogs are super excited about. We've got Broncos at the home team, Jacksonville Jaguars in London in this game. Pretty simply playing the over-under on it. 39.5 is that number. I tend to not like unders that are that low, but there's nothing that I've seen out of either of these teams that give me any sort of confidence that either of them is going to score over 20 points, let alone both teams scoring over 20 points in this game. So I'm going with the under. That being said, at some point, right, the Broncos have to get something going, right? At some point, something has to happen. But, Russell Wilson seems to have gone off of the deep end a bit. I don't know if you heard the stories that he put out himself about him being on the plane for 8 hours and exercising for 4 of the hours in the aisles of the plane while all the other players were sleeping. Like, it is crazy. Like, these stories that are coming that Russell Wilson is involved with are just crazy. Bordering on bipolar. Some of this stuff at this point, and And the guy, the new ownership group is just has to just be reeling from how poorly this has gone so far.
Yeah, it's these are two teams that aren't very good, which seems to be the norm for the games in London and Europe.
I mean, you were a big Jaguar. You were, Trevor Lawrence this, Trevor Lawrence that.
Yeah. I had a 2-week thing with the Jags. That ended about 3 weeks ago. And, the thing about these two teams is that both are pretty good defensively. Denver's really good defensively.
Yeah.
And the Jaguars are pretty good defensively. But offensively, there's just nothing there. I mean, the weapons aren't there. Travis Etienne has looked okay for Jacksonville since he started playing a little bit, but he's really small. He's not a big physical player, which is, I don't think it's a good matchup for him against the Broncos. I'm with you. I think it's a low-scoring affair. 39.5 is very low. I don't think it's low enough. I'm with you. I'm going to go the under at 39.5.
And then I don't know if you saw this, but Jacksonville actually traded James Robinson, one of their better backs. Are they waving the white flag to your New York Football Jets earlier in the week? So
yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it?
It really does. All right, let's move on.
All right, let's go to my next game, Raiders at Saints. The Raiders are a 2-point favorite in New Orleans. And these are two of the most inconsistent teams on the planet, Dave. And,
I'm hoping you flip-flop because I really want to take the Raiders.
No, I'm not going to flip-flop. Look, the Saints have got – this one's all about the injuries. They got 1 billion injuries. Nobody's healthy. And they're not very good to begin with. Their defense isn't what it was, a couple of years ago. The Raiders seem to be kind of getting things turned around a little bit at times. And I still think that this New Orleans roster is one of the worst in the league right now. So I'm going to go just based on that. I think the Raiders need some momentum if they're going to keep pace with teams like the Chiefs and things of that nature in the AFC West. So I'm going to take the Raiders and Carr and Devontae Adams. I just think they got a much better football roster.
Even with Sean Payton, it wasn't every season, but it seemed like, every third season he was a head coach. They just get off to like horrifically slow starts with this Saints team. I remember them a couple of years going like 0-4 at the beginning of the season, and then sort of turning things around. Well, apparently the whole Jameis Winston experiment is over because Andy Dalton is going to start, and Winston is is fully healthy at this point. So I think that just says more about Sean Payton as a quarterback whisperer, the real quarterback whisperer, than anything else. Look, Sean Payton on Sunday night might be getting or Sunday morning, since the game's in London, might be getting a call by the Walmart folks that now own the Broncos. And if you're Sean Payton, do you take that job?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And if you're Sean Payton, do you take that job knowing that you really might be dealing with some major damaged goods?
Bipolar goods, according to Dave.
Yeah, bipolar
goods. Look.
Like, what's Russell Wilson going to do on the 8-hour flight back? If they lose, what's he going to do?
When we're talking about the Saints, though, it's no longer Sean Payton. It's Dennis Allen. It's no longer Drew Brees. It's a combination of Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton. The talent has fallen off greatly. Michael Thomas is old.
Yeah.
Even Alvin Kamara looks a little bit slower than he used to be. They brought in an old wide receiver. What was it this year? I don't even know who it is. That Jamison Crowder or Ted Ginn or somebody, one of those old guys that's in there. Chris Olave is a good-looking young player, but there's just not a lot there, and the defense has gotten long in the tooth. So I think the Raiders are a better lineup from top to bottom.
So I'm 0-2 this season when I flip-flopped, Brad. 0-2 when I flip-flopped. I'm going to give it one more shot, I am going to flip back to the Raiders on this one. It's Jarvis Landry on the wide receiver that you were thinking of there. And I actually look at the offensive side of the ball and sort of feel like they're almost equal in terms of talent. I love Josh Jacobs. I'm sort of a Derek Carr fan. So I just think this Raider team just has so much more to play for at this point. This is a really important game for them because they are the best 2-4 team in the National Football League, and that's a real problem for Josh McDaniels. They should be so much better than they are. So I'm with you. I'm flip-flopping on this one, Mr. Hoystaf. Hopefully I'll be 1-2 in my flip-flops. But you will be receiving a text from me if for some reason the Saints pull this one off.
So it wasn't Jamison Crowder. It wasn't. I was trying to name every old wide receiver that always seems to never die. Right? I mean,
yeah. Where did they all go?
Yeah,
that is the question. All right. So moving on to the Bengals at the Browns. This is a game that I certainly excited about. It's the Monday Night Football matchup. Bengals are favored by 3.5 going into this game. Unless you know something I don't know, I think this Bengal team has indicated or shown a lot of indications the last couple of weeks that they're in the beginning process of turning the ship around. Joe Burrow is definitely maybe not in the top 2 quarterbacks in the National Football League, but I definitely have him in my top 5 for sure. He's just that tier below Mahomes and Josh Allen at this point. I think the Bengals are who the Bengals are going to be at this point. We've started to see it. They're loosening things up a little bit. My biggest concern is Joe sometimes just sits back in the pocket too long and does not make decisions quick enough and takes too many sacks and takes too many hits. And so to me, this game is going to be one on that defensive offensive line front, Bengals versus the D of the Browns in this game. So I'm going with the Bengals. I feel pretty darn confident about this game.
Dave, I think Jamar Chase is sidelined for 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, I didn't know that. Is that true?
Well, I've seen a report out there today of the hip injury where Adam Schefter is reporting that he could miss 4 to 6 weeks, and he's a prime candidate for injured reserve. So
where did that come from? I mean, that's literally. I'm not changing my pick though. They've got enough depth elsewhere.
Yeah, that was this afternoon, and so I did change my pick. I'm going to take the 3.5 points with the Browns because that was, in my opinion, that's why the Bengals and we're starting to turn it around. So the Browns, I still hate the quarterback situation there. They got a great running game and their defense is okay. If it wasn't, I probably wouldn't have taken this game left to my own devices. But based on the Jamar Chase news this afternoon, I'm gonna flip on that. I'm gonna take the Browns. I originally had taken the Bengals, and I'm gonna take that 3.5 points from you.
Okay. Interesting news. My biggest fear then will be, midway through the first quarter, yet another T. Higgins injury pops up. Right. I mean, it seems to, I think I feel like it's happened a half a dozen times already so far this season. And I do love the Browns running game. And Nick Chubb's definitely one of my favorite running backs. Gonna go ahead and stick with it. I think the cool as ice Joe Burrow. We can't use the song, Brad. Is gonna take me to the promised land on this one.
Well, you got the Wahlberg shirt on, so I got to go with like Good Vibrations, right? From his days when he was Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. That's a great video, by the way. Great video.
Great video, yeah.
All right, where are we at? It's my pick next. So I've got a couple left here. I got the Steelers at the Eagles. Originally, I had taken that Jets Pats game, but I swapped on that and decided to go with the Steelers at the Eagles. The Eagles are a 10.5-point favorite. Here's the bottom line. The Eagles are really good, and the Steelers are really bad. And I don't think you need to overthink this thing.
Water is wet and not dry.
That's right. And so I'm going to take the Eagles. I'm going to give the 10.5.
That's the best description ever. Like, could they just, just give up on the running game in Pittsburgh already, Brad? Like, seriously, give up on the running game. Like, it is one of the most frustrating things I've seen in the last 2 years in the National Football League. I love Najee Harris as much as the next guy, but he's not the kind of running back that can create his own holes. And he's not even getting to the line of scrimmage half of the time. I mean, it's just like if ever there was a time like to give up on the running game for a team that's sort of spiraling in the wrong direction, this is it. You look at the wide receivers they have on this team with this Pittsburgh Steelers team. Kenny Pickett's not like some slouch. Let's let the kid run around. I mean, let's open up the offense a little bit and let's see what you can do. This is the game in which you're playing against your rivals in the state, and you're favored to lose by 10.5, and everybody's picking against you, and I don't want to pick against Pittsburgh in this game. I want to flip flop in this game badly, but I can't do it if I keep seeing Najee Harris, tackled before he gets remotely close to the line of scrimmage. So I'm going to statistically play this game correctly and go with the Eagles as well.
Yeah, I think this could be like a changing of the guard weekend, Dave. I mean, in the state of Pennsylvania, it's officially going to change to Eagle country versus Steeler country. I think in the NFC or the AFC East, I think the Jets are still going to beat the Patriots, and you're going to see a change into the guard there. I think the Patriots, well, I heard Mac Jones might play this week, but, they're not quite as dead. But the Steelers, I believe, are way dead, along with Tom Brady's dead. It seems like the writing's on the wall for a lot of the old traditional things that we've gotten used to seeing over the last decade. And, the Steelers are not very good. The defense is atrocious. The offensive line is horrific. These are things that used to be staples. They were givens when you were talking about the Steelers.
I went 7-10 last week, Brad. It was the best week I've had so far against the spread. And I took the Steelers in that game. And they gave up a ton of points, and I got lucky. I'm not going to I'm not going to I really want to flip flop and go with the Steelers, because I know how they can at least keep this game to within 10.5 points. There's just no indication that they're going to do it. They're going to run the ball 30 times for 60 yards. And it's going to be, and do ball control, keep Jalen Hurts. You keep Jalen Hurts off the field, Brad.
Yeah, the problem is that this is a tempo game, and if the Eagles get up on top, the Steelers are not really the team they're not built to come from behind.
Yeah.
At some point, the Eagles are going to tie together a couple quick touchdowns or something, and then they're going to be relying on a rookie quarterback that frankly looks very mediocre right now.
I am so close to saying the hell with it and flipping to the Steelers. This Eagles team does not play well in the second half. They put up their points in the first half, and that's it. But I'm going to go and stick with it and move on quickly to another game.
Yeah, I think the Eagles have had an extra week to think about this game as well. So, yeah, Eagles minus 10.5. Looks like we're both taking the birds.
All right. Fly, Eagles, fly. Dolphins at the Detroit Lions. Hey, the ownership group of the Lions, Brad, I'm not sure if you saw this, but they came out with a lackluster vote of confidence for the the vote of confidence where somebody says, well, we're not happy about how things are going, but we still believe in you. Like when somebody says we're not happy about how things are going and they follow up with, we still believe in you, that means we still believe in you for, to the end of that particular season, and then we'll no longer believe in you. The pattern here of this Lions organization would be to give Dan Campbell and the general manager at least one more year before they made a move. It would be unusual for them to make a move after just 2 years or any sooner than that. That's not generally like the Lions like their mediocrity to last. They tend to not make those decisions. Like the decision the Broncos are going to make with Nathaniel Hackett is just such an obvious one. The Lions would hold on to Nathaniel Hackett for at least 2 years, like before they did anything. This is easy. This is all fins for me in this game. The Mad Genius got sort of Humpty Dumpty got knocked off of his perch, so to speak, with all of the injuries to Tua. I think they're just going to run rampant in that dome there. It's going to be like that. Lions defense is terrible, and Jared Goff has fallen off back to his days in Los Angeles.
Yeah, we didn't even mention Dave going 7-3 last week. I mean, that was quite a week you had there. I think it was one of the best weeks you've ever had on this show. I have gone to 8. I felt bad at 5-5.
I have gone at 8-10. I think a couple times, and all I'm going to say is, damn those Bears.
Gotta love those Bears, don't you?
Like how does that happen?
I was getting text messages from Dave all night long on Monday night, and I was sitting back. I had the Bears. I even sent him a BEARS, Bears.
I probably just went silent on you.
All right. So who do you got? You got the Dolphins then. Yeah, this one was tricky to me, Dave. In fact, at first I did take the Dolphins. And then I flipped and I took the Lions.
I mean, what do you possibly see in this Lions? Or tell America, Brad.
I don't know, Dave. You remember last year, or was it 2 years ago, when I said the Lions were going to win the NFC North? And I think they proceeded to win 3 or 4 games the entire year. I don't know. I don't know if it's the Thanksgiving morning game thing where I have a thing for the Lions, or I do like Dan Campbell as a person, and I do believe he'll be fired very soon. But I think the Lions have played some of the most exciting football games this year, and a lot of their games seem to go down to the end. Yeah. And they're at home. They're getting 3. Everything seems to go down to the final play. And so I'm going to take the 3. I'm going to take the Lions at home.
Yeah, if this was and I'm not going to try to talk you out of your mistake. If this was like 3 weeks ago, I would have, probably agreed. But all the injuries have piled up. They're just, devastated at this point.
By the way, for those at home, I am hitting 60% on Dave's games so far this year. That is outstanding stuff.
And Brad is winning the season, outright. But a lot like last season when we turned the corner, and headed back towards the back from the halfway point. I get stronger as the season goes on. Same thing happened last year.
Dave, you're behind by more than a corner. Okay. You're a coast.
It's
the entire coast.
Several
right now because I got
that's
off
why
to
I
a
was like
start.
so mad at the Bears. Like, when did Justin Fields learn how to be a quarterback in the National Football League? When did Bill Belichick suddenly decide he didn't know what the hell he was doing as a head coach and decide to just mess with one of the most important things in all of sports is chemistry? Like,
you know what made me so happy, Dave, was that Troy Aikman had one of the greatest lines in that game. I don't know if you recall. It was like 2 drives after Bailey Zappi came into the game, and he said, he said something to the effect of, well, at 7:15, the Patriots didn't have a quarterback controversy. At 8:15, they very well may have one. I thought that was one of the greatest lines ever, and he could have backed that up an hour later and say, nah, they don't have a quarterback controversy.
There's absolutely no quarterback controversy there. I got stuck on the Manning cast. I didn't see any of the traditional broadcast at all, just because as the train wreck, especially in the second half, began, I couldn't believe what I was watching. Like,
my final game is the Pack at the Bills, and I'm going to stay with this changing of the guard, theme. I think we're seeing a change in the guard. I think the Packers are done, Dave. I'm watching this football team. They're terrible. If they lose this one, which I think they're going to at the Bills, and the Vikings win, the Vikings are going to have a huge lead in the division. And the Packers don't look good at all. They don't look capable of coming back. And I don't think Alan Lazard's going to play this weekend. The Bills are favored by 10.5, and I just don't think it's enough. I think Buffalo is clearly the team to beat right now, or one of the teams to beat in the entire league. They're playing at home. The Packers are the walking wounded. They don't have any talent on offense. Now suddenly their defense doesn't look very good either. I'm going to take the Bills. I'm going to give that 10.5. I know it's a big line, but I think the Bills are for real.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. 10.5 points. Hate these games, Brad. Thanks for picking this one. Because it's just like the game starts and you're down by 10.5. and then you get into, like, how sometimes
but in fairness, you got Josh Allen and Gabe Davis and that defense.
Yeah, but how some of these games go. You're midway through the second quarter and it's still 0-0. And you're like, God, this better not turn into an SVP bad beats moment. So I'm with you. I'm agreeing with you. I'm going to take the Bills. The Packers, I don't want to, claim death on a team like the Packers just yet. I still think it's a strategic issue. The strategic issue is that they don't have enough good wide receivers, so they should be shifting back to the running game a lot more, and then maybe take some actual shots down the field, which they really haven't been doing. So there are things that they could be doing differently from an offensive perspective that I think would turn the ship around. On the flip side, their defense is not playing as well as we thought they were going to play coming into the season. Spent all their draft picks year over year on the defensive side of the ball. And then there's the lack of leadership from Aaron Rodgers. There, I said it. Lack of leadership from Aaron Rodgers. It's like him and Russell Wilson must have their own little club. Their own little club of like, Russell wants to be loved by everybody, but doesn't know how to do it. Aaron wants to say whatever he wants to say and just be respected because he's Aaron Rodgers. And that's not how leadership works in either scenario. So, like Rodgers, and we might lose Rodgers and Brady in the same year to retirement. It wouldn't really surprise me. so much. I just wonder what Aaron Rodgers which island Aaron Rodgers is going to disappear off to when he does ultimately walk away from the game. I can't see this Packer team at this stage, coming anywhere close on this one.
No, I mean, during the offseason, the big news is that they lost Devontae Adams. They never replaced him. And then they lost their number 2 wide receiver, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They didn't replace him. Their number 3 guy was Alan Lazard last year, and he's supposed to be the number 1 guy. He's not really a number 1 wide receiver to start with, and now he's dinged up. And so you got these rookies like Dubs and all these guys. They can't catch. They're not the same players.
Yeah, it's crazy, Brad. They can't actually catch the ball.
They finally started getting the ball to Aaron Jones. Now that I can appreciate, but I don't know. There's no firepower.
More Aaron Jones, and then like if you're gonna throw the ball to Dobbs, don't throw these balls where he's anywhere near the center of the field. Like he's hearing things in his head. I hate to be a slot wide receiver in the National Football League. I'd rather be the guy that just goes deep like Randy Moss used to. Except I don't have that kind of speed. Never did. And so to be a slot wide receiver takes a special person. And I think Dobbs is so rattled, and they keep sending it's Brad. Really, there's a lot of just bad coaching sort of going on here with this football team and Matt LaFleur. All right, moving on to our last game of the week. The Giants at the Seattle Seahawks. Geno Smith. I said it, Brad, at the very beginning of the year, I believed in Pete Carroll. Do you remember that?
No. But whatever. I believe you, but I can't remember last Thursday, let alone the beginning of the season.
Right? So Pete Carroll has done a fantastic job. They did a good job drafting. The defense is definitely playing better. I to some extent have started to give a little bit of respect to Brian Daboll and the New York Giants. I'm a big fan of their defensive coordinator with this Giants football team. I think this Giants team is going to come to play. This was a challenging game to think about from a variety of perspectives. Just because the Giants defense is coached by such a good coach who is going to find a way to get some pressure on Geno. But there's just something about Geno Smith right now. They're going to be at home. They're giving up 3 points. I've seen this poise with Geno Smith week over week over week, for the most part, continue to grow and grow and grow. Which really, I just wonder why they even decided to trade for Drew Luck in the first place. like why did they have to take out somebody else's trash? Why couldn't they get something else other than Drew Luck in that Russell Wilson deal? Because Drew Luck, we never see Drew Luck ever play like this. I'm taking the Seahawks. I have faith in Pete Carroll. And I think the Daniel Jones bubble will get popped just a little bit in this game.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to take the Giants. If I was betting this game, though, I would take the over, which I believe was 44.5, something like 40.
Yeah.
What was it? Yeah, it was 44.5. And I think what we're looking at here is we're looking at two teams whose, at the beginning of the season, I think neither one of these quarterbacks were expected to do anything, Geno Smith or Daniel Jones. And I think they've both played really well. Daniel Jones is a heck of a runner. I mean, people don't realize that kid has got some running skills. And, they don't have a lot at wide receiver, and I think he does the best with what he's got there. I think they both overperformed so far this year. And so I see both of these teams scoring more points than perhaps what the odds makers think. But I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to take the Giants. I I do believe in this Giants team. I think they're pretty good. I'm not a big fan of the line. I probably wouldn't have touched it had you not picked the game. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the guys from the East Coast to beat the guys from the Northwest.
Yep. Always go with the team that travels the furthest, Brad. All right. So there you go. There's your top 10 games worth actually spending some money on for week number 8 of your National Football League season. Mr. Hoysef, any parting thoughts for you?
No, we're almost at the midway point. It's almost time to start. Maybe next week we'll start talking about who the biggest surprises are, who the biggest disappointments are, stuff of that nature. But we're approaching. It just seems like yesterday the season started. Now we're already in week 8, and some storylines are starting to formulate. It's the changing of the guard thing. We got Brady doesn't look good. Rodgers doesn't look good. The Steelers, who are perennial power for decades, don't look good. And so I think we're seeing the emergence of some young guys and the way they're playing and making their teams more competitive. Can the Vikings stay on track at 5-1? How long can the Vikings stay on the tracks? Who knows? But we're going to find out.
Yeah, I mean, they'll definitely derail a couple times between now and then. I think like one of the questions I would have for you, Brad, is do you think we're going to end up this year with 2 division winners with 8 and 9 records? I mean, like it is setting up that way where that
Bucs division looks pretty. That Buccaneer division looks pretty bad. I still think
I could see the 49ers winning their like Kyle Shanahan is just that bad of a coach when he doesn't have any depth. And I could see them winning that division at 8 and 9.
I think they'll do better than that. I think McCaffrey's going to give them a huge boost. That was a great pickup for the Niners mid-season. And, with the good offensive line they got there, he could be a huge factor down the stretch of the season. Christian McCaffrey's still got a lot of game left.
Yeah. All right. There you go. By the way, a little bit of a fire sale starting to happen in Chicago. They let they traded one of their defensive ends today to the Eagles. It's just interesting, like I feel like we're going to have a lot more trades this year than we have had in years past. All right, that is it for the Gods of Odds this week. That is Brad Hoysef over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave DeBopp in Northern California, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing week.